Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. I'm so glad you could join me again today. Today is a little bit different than what I normally do, and actually, there will be no painting done on the show. Today, I'm going to use two things here: a Vicks jar and a flashlight. And you're going, "What in the world does that have to do with painting?" Hopefully we can help you with that here in a little bit, maybe understand. This kind of came to me this afternoon. I had a student in my studio that I was talking with, and we were talking about perspectives, and kind of this whole idea came to me after she left, and I thought, maybe we're just going to do this whole episode today having to do with perspective. And maybe it will help you in your own painting and your own drawing. And I brought in a picture that I started. This you'll see behind me. This is on a birch panel, which, as you know, if you've watched for very long, know that I paint a lot on. And I painted this beautiful sky here that takes up, almost 2/3 of the canvas before it actually gets down in here to this land mass, if you were, of maybe some foothills with a little bit of a valley below. And I wasn't sure where I was going to go with this painting until a little bit ago when I was talking with my student Kim, and it just kind of came to me that how I'd like to do it, and I'll show you the picture I'm going to use. I think on this painting behind, and maybe over the next a month or so, periodically I will bring this same picture in as I'm progressing with it, so that you can kind of get an idea of maybe the process that I go through on a daily basis in my studio in developing paintings. So this painting behind me, um, I, this is where the perspective of what this show is kind of all about today is about perspective, and I want to point out some things on this picture, and I'll show you the photograph that I'm working off of that I'm going to develop this painting into, and I want to show you some different things. So I've got kind of some weird camera angles because of what we're doing tonight. So if you can bear with me a little bit as we go through that, hopefully we can get those shots so that you can understand a little better what I'm doing. So let's go back to this painting here behind me. And I intentionally left this painting I wanted the sky to be a focal point in this picture. Now, in my way of looking at it, this would be maybe, out in the Midwest, some where the big, or Montana, they call big sky country. I wanted to have this feel of the vastness of the sky in perspective to whatever we put in the foreground here. So, I could have made the sky where it stopped about here and developed in closer with the subject matter. But I wanted to give the feeling, like I said, of vastness of this sky. And so this is the picture, and if we can switch over to the other camera here, this is the picture that I'm going to be using of these three cowboys. Now, I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to actually utilize all three. Well, I may just have one. I'm not sure, but how I wanted to, what I wanted to talk about with the perspective is the fact that, it's in the size that you put this of the feel of what I'm trying to accomplish up here on the canvas. Now, if I did it just to scale to this picture, or did it the size of the picture, it would make them very, very small. And yes, it would give the feeling of the vastness, but it's a little bit too small for our subject matter. So I, I need to kind of figure out now the size that I want this to where I still develop the sky as a focal point, but yet these are almost secondary as as a secondary focal point. And so I could take and put maybe the cowboys across here on, so it would be basically in this bottom left-hand third of the picture, or I could do it larger where they might be up, tops of the hat might be up here, and the horse's end of the horse's head would be over here. A lot of it just depends on what you're wanting as the focal point. Now, I'm trying to accomplish two things. I'm wanting them, obviously, as the subject matter of interest in this, but at the same time, I don't want to kill what I've done with the sky. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe something where the top of the hat would be here, and maybe the edge of the horse, the front of the horse's head, would be somewhere in this vicinity. You know, in doing that, so the cowboy would be here, the front of the horse would be here. And I'm kind of thinking that that might be good. The hat would be above this distant ridge line back here. And I may end up putting maybe some cattle that are maybe down below in this little bit of a valley. But I wanted to bring this up and talk about this because oftentimes I see with students is they will take and they have things in the wrong perspective. They will have an object that is way larger than what it should be in the space that they've been given. Or maybe it's the opposite of that, whether it be too large or too small. So this is an integral part, I think, of any type of a painting you're doing or drawing that you're trying to do, trying to make sure that the composition is correct. And we'll talk a little bit about the composition with those horses here in a minute, but the composition is correct and that the perspective is correct. Now, if you know, if I was trying to get it where I was looking down into the valley, then maybe I would look at maybe the tops of more of the shoulder part of the cowboys looking down in, and the subject matter would have to be lower for that to be in perspective to the rest of the painting. So take your time to make sure that you're developing those things as you're composing your painting. A lot of it has to do with the overall feel that you're wanting to accomplish in that piece. And again, for me, in this particular one, I'm wanting that sky. I'm wanting to me, that's what is going to give this image a powerful feel to it. If I took and filled up the whole bottom third or half of the picture with the cowboys, I think it would lose the feel for the atmosphere that I'm trying to create. So that's, I think, is important for your own composition when you're thinking these things through. What is the overall feel that you want that to convey at the end? All of the paintings that I do, I try to convey a feeling, an emotion. That's what makes art work. It's evoking emotions and feelings, maybe a distant memory, or something that brings back some sort of a positive feeling for you, or it may be negative too. but it evokes some sort of emotion. And to me, that's what good artwork is about. It's to make you think, it's to make you feel, it's how to evoke an emotion within you that that can only be done by a certain image. And every person's perspective, and again, we're using the word perspective, everyone's perspective, it's coming from where you've been. You're looking at that particular thing in a certain way because of a past experience. And that's where my little object lesson that we're going to use right now with my Vicks jar, which I've been fighting a cold for several weeks, and so I've been using a lot of Vicks, but with the flashlight here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I just got a piece of poster board I'm going to put up here, and this is where we're going to use the Vicks jar and the flashlight. So hopefully this shows up well enough on the screen for you to where you can see what I'm trying to convey here. So I turned my flashlight on, and as you can see, I've got, it's shining onto that poster board. Now, everyone, you can see what this is. It's a Vicks jar. If you're looking at it from one perspective, it looks like I'm holding a ball in my hand. And hopefully you can see that, because all you're seeing is just the top of that jar. And then it's not until I turn that jar, and even there it looks like I'm holding an egg. I'm not holding an egg, I'm holding a jar. But until you continue on rotating that, then you can see that it's a jar that's on the screen there behind. And this is important for several reasons. A lot of times when you are painting an object, you have to keep in mind, especially shadows, what direction that shadow is coming from. You need to know where that light source is at, and oftentimes people have the shadow out of perspective with the rest of the picture because they haven't identified exactly where the light source is coming from. It changes the perspective of the object that you are trying to show. This little object lesson with the flashlight and with the jar has to do with the perspective. It's all from where you're looking at that object from, and knowing where the light source is and how it's being cast on that object. So many times in life, we look at things from one perspective. We see it because from where the angle we're at, we're seeing that object a certain way. And it's not until you change that perspective and you change your point of view that you can see that object maybe in a different light than what it was initially. And that changes your whole perspective and outlook about that particular item. We, in general, I think, as human beings, have a tendency to see something and we base it off of our own experience, our own past, our own memories, our own experiences, and we gain an instant assessment of what that is. I have to continually remind myself. Today was a perfect example of this. I had to change my way of looking at an object and a situation. I had to take and look at it from someone else's point of view. I had to take and change where I was at, admit that maybe my perspective was not correct, and I had to look at it and evaluate it from a different perspective. When I did that, suddenly I like, oh, okay, well, maybe not that way I looked at it was incorrect or wrong. It was just a different perspective than what the other person was viewing the same situation. Don't be so stuck in thinking that your idea, your perception, your perspective of a situation is automatically correct. Right now, we have, especially with the big nomination coming up for the presidential election, we've got all sorts of people that are shining a light on a certain subject, certain candidate, so that they're trying to get us to look at that from their perspective. Just because they're showing you that does not mean that it's necessarily correct. Yes, the top of this is round, but it's not a ball like it looked like I was holding on the screen. So my point is that don't be so locked in, don't be so self-absorbed that you cannot change and look at something from someone else's point of view. I think if you will look at something from all sorts of different angles, I think you're going to have a more realistic idea about what that is than what it is if you're just so focused on saying, this is exactly what I see, and I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do, this is still a ball. It's not a ball, it's a jar. So whether it be in the political nominations that are going right now, or whether it be a situation maybe at work, or a situation at home in the family, or with some friends, take time to change your perspective. Change how you're looking at that situation and assess, is really truly, is where I'm coming from, is it really truly what it is, or is there a different way of looking at it? And 9 times out of 10, if not more, we are not looking at things correctly. We're seeing them only from that one point of view. So over the next week, as situations and circumstances come up, take and try to look at your life around you, about the people in your life, the situations that are in your life. Take and try to look at them from a different perspective, from a different point of view. Yesterday, another friend, this is now the 4th friend this year that's passed away, a gal by the name of Cher. And Cher, in the local music scene, has been a blues singer and has been a joy to everyone that meets her. She finally lost her battle with liver cancer last night or the night before. Huge loss for everyone that knew her, and a huge void that's going to be left. She fought this for a number of years, and this, I think, was her 2nd or 3rd bout with cancer. And she finally lost this one. But I hear about, 3 or 4 months ago, had the opportunity to be at a place here just a few blocks away, when I got to see her last time that I think she was on stage and performed. And I talked to her before the music had started that night, and I asked her how she was doing, and she said, I'm hurting, but she said, I want to sing tonight. Singing is my joy. Singing is my passion. And she said, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to do my thing. And she did. And I was thinking about that. You know, a lot of times it's easy to take circumstances that we're involved in, things that are not comfortable, maybe we're hurting emotionally or physically, and we let that become our focus. Think about that over this next week. Are you focused on your own perspective, or do you need to change it? Look at things from a different point of view. Cher was a blessing to every single person that she ever met. Are you being a blessing to every person that you meet in spite of your own circumstances? So this week, be inspired, be creative, and check your perspective. Thank you again for joining me here on Art and Soul, and I'll see you next week. Be blessed.